Trade finance is very much lagging behind other businesses, for example, cash management. And this is due to 4 factors. The first one is the complexity of the ecosystem with numerous stakeholders, notably in documentary trade. Secondly, the lack of legal and regulatory framework, which prevented from going into digitalization. Thirdly, the fact that the system are not very open initially. Now more and more we're going to very sustainable and open solutions. And the low adoption rate, meaning there is no smaller community like for the payments where there can be a critical mass on which to work. Trade is really a worldwide business, so it's not possible to optimize it in a lower extent. Trade finance processes have been manual for decades, and they are still like this, from the transaction request to the reporting, which is done manually through emails, even now. And this has brought a lot of inefficiencies, driving cost high, with high turnaround time as well, and also with a strong mindset against change.
Yes, I think there is a clear will, which you can see through a series of illustrations. First and foremost, many of the promising initiatives are all done in collaborative mode. So you see all the actors, many actors in the trade ecosystem working together. It's not only banks with banks, but also with corporates, with shipping companies, port authorities, logistic companies, with fintechs, with technology firms. So the interesting thing is that you see that vast ecosystem working collaboratively together. So I think that's a clear proof that it goes in the right direction. Then you have also local authorities like Singapore or Hong Kong authorities that are also working on local initiatives that try to promote standardization of trade. And you have also the ICC Digital Standards for Initiative, which is actually trying to combine or bring together a lot of standardization initiatives that already existed, like UTN and others. And that's really going to be key. So if you want to avoid that, you have all the platforms, even if they're open in nature, APIs are going to resolve some things, but they are not going to resolve everything. So interoperability between these platforms is really going to be key if you want to digitize trade going forward. But legislators need to follow as well. They need to adapt the laws, because laws are not really adapted to the digital world. Yeah, that needs to be done as well at every country level. A legislator will have to adapt their legislation as well, which is something we don't control that easily. I think everybody, all the actors of the trade ecosystem will benefit. Because if we do this right, and all these platforms manage to come to fruition, to production, and several of them will come to production very soon, and if they manage to interoperate, again, it's a very important aspect, ultimately you would have multiple benefits out of it. Not only you would eliminate paper to a large extent, which is good for the planet, you would actually make quicker process time, quicker transaction times that will free up working capital for corporates. You would make all things much more STP, easier integration through APIs and cloud based solutions. Then you avoid multiple inputs, you avoid multiple errors. So there are, if you bring digitized documents from the origin, you don't necessarily need to go to difficult technology, I mean not that difficult, but to OCR implementations, for example. This will all take time, of course. And actually another very important point is the traceability, the transparency. With some of the technologies, like for example blockchain, you bring a lot of transparency and traceability. The tracking will improve your risk and compliance management. It will allow to prove the sustainable origin of goods, for example. So I see multiple benefits. So if all the actors continue to think collectively for the greater good of the trade industry, I think they will all benefit from it.
First, I think in terms of digital transformation, we need to cover a need. So it's very important that the treasurer first look at what are the needs before we start any transformation project, especially on the digital. Needs, what I think are very important is first is visibility. Corporate have operation everywhere in the world or in many subsidiaries, so they need to have visibility of what's happening. So it's more the reporting in terms of risk, in terms of exposure, in terms of maturity date, etc., etc. The second thing is control. You need to make sure that your subsidiaries, your colleagues everywhere in the world are respecting the rules set by the corporate, the company. So that's also one thing very important. It's more this control aspect. The third, I think, needs that the treasurer needs to look at is the cost efficiency. Of course, you can enter in all those digital development, but it means cost, so you need to make sure that those costs are taken into account. Today, I think in terms of challenges, are always the same. The first are the cost. They don't have budget to start those big projects. Second, the second is probably the time. They are so busy with a lot of things to do, so they don't have time to take those transformation projects correctly. Expertise. That's today very, very important. We can see all those digital transformation. You need good people, good talent to do that. At the end of the day, it's remain a people thing. The priority is probably the short term. You need to fix challenge, pain point that the clients are facing. So that's where we invest regularly to make sure we upgrade our platform, we meet those small requirements to make sure we fix the pain point that clients are facing. That's very important. Second, it's sometimes to look a bit on the medium terms. Today, if you take large corporate, they need multi-bank solution. They cannot afford to develop a specific product of one bank when they work with a lot of banks. So we need to be ready for this multi-bank solution. One of the solutions today in the market is is SwiftNet. SwiftNet, it's probably the best solution in terms of multi-bank solution, but you need to be ready for the connectivity of that. So we invest in that to meet this requirement of client. And the third one is more the long term. And of course, we will see some development today in the short term. It's everything related to the DLT blockchain, because we all know that it's a paper business, the trade, and something has to be done. For the planet, we cannot continue with all those paper everywhere, so we need to invest in digital solution. Blockchain seems to be, or this type of technology seems to be a good solution, but it will take time because of this complexity of this ecosystem.